Well, it seems like they picked the appropriate name for this show because pretty much the entire night that crowd was doing nothing but using their inside voices, the voices that they would probably use inside their homes. Hello everybody and welcome to the WrestleDude YouTube channel for your review, your Talking Takeover review for NXT Takeover in Your House 2021. Thank you guys for listening here. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you guys do, make sure you leave a thumbs up on the video and let me know in the comment section below your favorite match or moment from NXT Takeover in Your House 2021. We're gonna hop right into it here with my notes that I took during the show. Show kicked off with Todd Pettengill introducing the show. One of the guys that was there last year for the NXT Takeover in Your House. He did a ton of the other in Your House shows back in the day. And then afterwards, we had some weird, musical performance where I can't remember what the lady's name was, but it was kind of obvious that she was lip-syncing. I doubt that was supposed to be an old-timey feeling where back in the day, people would lip-sync a lot. I mean, I know people lip-sync a lot nowadays, too, but it was very obvious here. Plus, I just don't really know who that lady who sung the main theme was, so I just didn't really care. The actual main show kicked off with Bronson Reed and MSK versus Legado del Fantasma, winner-take-all six-man tag team match. I have been noticing the past few takeovers they have not had the tag team titles on here on the show, and I feel like this was kind of their way of getting it on there at the same time of having the North American Championship on there, which I think the story leading up to this actually worked really well to have all six of these guys in this one match, and this was actually a pretty fun thing. I wasn't really taking my notes early on during the show, so I kind of had to go back and rewatch this, but it was a very fun match. Legado del Fantasma had the early advantage, and then towards the finish, Santos Escobar was on the outside towards the ringside area, and he's holding the North American Championship, and he's getting really mad about it, and then all of a sudden Bronson Reed tackles him through one of the ringside barricades, so that basically takes him out. And then back inside the ring, MSK hit their double team finisher on Raul Mendoza, and then Bronson Reed tags in and hits the Tsunami Splash. MSK and Bronson Reed retain all their championships. I would assume MSK are moving on to something different, depending on what happens with, I guess, the Tornado Tag Team match that's going to take place on NXT TV. But, I don't know. I feel like Bronson Reed and Santos could probably definitely go for another go-around one-on-one matchup. I don't know. Santos Escobar has seemingly moved out of the 205 Live division and has gone to the North American title, so that's pretty cool. And Kushida is doing a hell of a lot of really fun stuff. I've been really loving his stuff on NXT ever since he won the Cruiserweight Championship. It's been very awesome. After this matchup, we went back and there was a segment between Todd Pettengill and Mackenzie Mitchell as they were showing a clip of Xia Li and Mercedes Martinez from the Mae Young Classic as we went into Mae Young Classic rematch Xia Li versus Mercedes Martinez here at NXT Takeover in Your House 2021. I don't know why I had to say the full title, but I did, so deal with it. But yeah, Xia Li came out with some pretty cool blue gear and a sword. She looked pretty freaking awesome. And during her entrance, I was really thinking, remember, all those months ago where, there was some story that came out where Xia Li was going to compete in this, what was it, kickboxing tournament or whatever it was, and then the WWE or NXT had her pull out of it because they didn't want her actually doing the show. And this was at a time where she wasn't really doing anything. And I think the story went that, she went to management and said, well, you won't let me do this, tournament thing. Then why don't you do something with me on TV? And then that's kind of, after that, not too long after that, is when this whole new aggressive, like heelish side of her started, and ever since then, it has been really friggin' awesome, and it continued on here. Xia Li had the advantage early on in the matchup, and then she accidentally kicked the ring post, which kind of gave Mercedes the advantage. And, like, I wrote down during this match, like, it's crazy to think how much these two have changed since their Mae Young Classic matchup. I mean, obviously, like, their looks have changed, attitudes have changed, they've become a lot more established. It's just cool to kind of look at those moments and look back on how much characters and how much performers have changed since some of their, like, earlier days, and especially in WWE. Later on in the matchup, Mercedes Martinez got a 2 count off this, like, cool Razor's Edge into a facebuster move. I don't know if it has an actual name for it. But Mercedes nearly got the pin at one moment, but then Boa, who was at ringside, like right next to the ring, pulled Xia Li out, and Xia Li then tried to run at Mercedes on the outside, but then got like back bodies dropped onto the floor, which sounded like it hurt pretty bad. But then in the end, Xia Li countered out of Mercedes' air raid crash, hit that spinning kick, and got the 3 count. After it was a very delayed 3 count too. I was worried that Mercedes was going to kick out, but no, she got the clean win. And then afterwards, Xia Li grabs a chair and tries to use it on Mercedes, but then Mercedes gets it, she attacks Boa and Xia Li, and then Mercedes faces off against Mei Ying on the stage, and then Mei Ying grabs Mercedes by the throat and chucks her off the stage. So I don't know what I don't know if this is maybe going to be Mercedes' last match in NXT. I guess we'll have to see what happens on TV. But it's kind of the biggest like physical thing that Mei Ying has done since like debuting on NXT with Xia Li. Also, I put this note in here too. Apparently, Mei Ying and Teen Shaw have a Twitter account, so I like that this whole aura they have for is like this character is 1,000 years old and is like a demon possessed woman and stuff like this. And it's like you can also follow her on Twitter. So I just thought that was super funny, so I felt like bringing it up here. After the matchup, we went backstage, and there was a promo segment between Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher promoting the Tornado Tag Team match. This was fine. I am excited for the Tornado Tag Team matchup. I do like the tag team of Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa, especially because, you know, after having Ciampa as the NXT champion and stuff like that, I was interested to see where they were going to go with his character after all that, and especially after his loss to Karrion Kross at last year's In Your House show. And now a year later, he's got this new tag team going with Timothy Thatcher. Seems like it'll be fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to the Tornado Tag Team matchup on NXT TV coming up this Wednesday. It's going to be pretty exciting, I think. Now, the next matchup was my most anticipated match of the night, and I'm sure it was for a lot of people. Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight for the $1 Million Championship in a ladder match. They had Ted DiBiase at ringside along with his security to watch the matchup, and they presented the championship. It's a ladder match, so normally in title ladder matches they just kind of have the championship hanging like on a little rope at the top of the arena, but with the $1 Million Championship, and I don't think this has ever been done before with any other championships, but the $1 Million Championship they had in a clear case that had like a cool little setup, like red velvet setting inside of it. So I do like that, where like kind of the idea is Ted DiBiase doesn't want like these wrestlers like sweaty hands like grabbing at the championship. Like you gotta grab the case, then you gotta carefully take the title out of it, and then you get to hold it. So I did like the aesthetic of that. I think it looked really cool, especially for the whole story leading around this. The entire build to this matchup has probably been the best story in NXT lately, aside from Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell, which is another story I've been enjoying very much. And this was one of the very few moments where the crowd actually made some noise. They were chanting LA sucks, and Cameron Grimes gets cheered quite a bit. I just don't know what it was like during this entire show. Like, it's a takeover, and they have a ton more people inside the CWC for this show, and yet they just seem so quiet. Like, a ton of time. I don't know what it could have been. I don't know if they just missed out on some caffeine, or if they like just didn't get enough sleep the night before, or their voices were muted because they were wearing masks, which I did like to see that quite a few people were wearing masks still. I'm sure the other people that weren't were vaccinated, so that's great to see. And I put this note in here too. While the match was going on, I was kind of scrolling through Twitter to kind of see other people's vibes for the show, and the Impact Wrestling Twitter account had an amazing tweet, a well-timed tweet. They do this a lot, where like if big-time matches in WWE are happening with former Impact talent, they'll kind of try to capitalize on it by talking about the content that happened with those competitors in Impact Wrestling. And they tweeted about a match between Eli Drake versus Trevor Lee, who Eli Drake is now LA Knight and Trevor Lee is now Cameron Grimes. So that was just a perfectly timed tweet on the part of Impact Wrestling. Later on in the matchup, Cameron Grimes got knocked over a ladder at ringside, or Cameron Grimes nearly knocked over a ringside ladder that nearly killed Beth Phoenix. You could hear her screaming on commentary because the tip of the ladder nearly like knocked her in the head. And then both guys end up getting ladders inside the ring, and they joust. They kind of shove them into each other. And then in the end, Cameron Grimes big boots LA Knight out of the ring. And then later on in the matchup, LA Knight gets the advantage and starts beating up Grimes in front of Ted DiBiase, and then LA Knight ends up setting up like this ladder bridge at ringside, and which kind of was very underwhelming towards the end. Cameron Grimes then German suplexed LA Knight onto a ladder that was set up in the corner. And then Grimes nearly tossed the ladder into LA Knight's crotch as he was like sitting in the corner of the ring, but then LA Knight countered and hit like a brutal like neck breaker on Cameron Grimes onto the ladder, where the ladder was like set up on its side. So that looked pretty brutal. And then towards another point in the matchup, Cameron Grimes hit a back body drop onto LA Knight onto the ladder, and then LA Knight gets like tossed out of the ring onto the ladder bridge, and it seemed like the ladder bridge was supposed to break, but LA Knight didn't like fly out far enough towards the middle of the ladder for it to actually break, so he kind of just like landed on the edge. And then afterwards, Cameron Grimes went up the rampway and he grabbed like this golden ladder, like gold painted ladder that was like up at the top of the ramp, which looked pretty cool. And so the two men fight on top of the ladder. They're fighting back and forth after each other. Cameron Grimes hits this cool like cross body off the top of one of like the high beams by the announcer's table, and he goes back in the ring. And it looks like Cameron Grimes is about to get the championship. And then LA Knight comes in and shoves Cameron Grimes off the ladder onto another ladder that was set up on the rampway, and then LA Knight went up and he grabbed the case and became the new $1 million champion. I had Cameron Grimes set up for this one. I think I pretty much got all of my predictions correct for this show, aside from this match, which I mean, there are some takeovers where the matches are very predictable, but the matches are still very fun. I feel like this was kind of one of those shows. I don't know. I'll give my final opinions at the end of this. But after this, we got a nice little segment between Todd Pettengill and Hit Row promoting some merchandise backstage, and then there was the shot of Pete Dunne and Karrion Kross about to brawl backstage before the main event match. We also had one of these like little clips during earlier in the day where Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano were about to brawl in the parking lot, and both times like William Regal had to like pull them apart. And this was a nice little through line that's been happening not only during the show here tonight, but on NXT TV, where like there are just these brawls happening and William Regal can't really control it all, which is what we'll get to at the very end of the show, and I'll give my opinions on that. But before that, we have Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon for the NXT Women's Championship in a feud that hasn't really had a lot of build. I don't know. I feel like Raquel, her title reign right now is kind of in a weird spot, just because like there's not really one big challenger that's being set up right now for her to be like the one to take the championship off of her. So it's kind of just like they're kind of giving her mini feuds. Like she had the one with Mercedes Martinez, and then I think there was one before that. I can't remember who it was. Like all roads are gonna lead to like Dakota Kai turning on Raquel, or Raquel turning on Dakota Kai. At some point it's going to be that. This whole story was set up for this matchup, that Raquel Gonzalez took out Shotzi Blackheart, and then Ember Moon wanted the championship match. So that's kind of how we got to this matchup. And it was a very fun match. It opened it up with Ember Moon trying to use Raquel's kind of like speed against her, but Raquel was able to counter out of a lot of stuff. And Raquel tried to go for the power bomb, or one-arm power bomb, but Ember countered it with a Hurricane Rana. And then very quickly Dakota Kai gets involved, allowing Raquel Gonzalez to take control. She hit this nice little Vader bomb, like spin out senton off the middle rope, was pretty cool. And then Ember Moon ended up making a comeback later on, hit a nice little code red. And then towards the end of the matchup, Dakota Kai stopped Ember Moon from hitting the Eclipse, and Raquel hit a nice superplex. Then later on, Ember Moon actually did hit the Eclipse, but Dakota put Raquel's foot on the bottom rope to break up the count. And as Dakota Kai is like standing at ringside pretending she did nothing wrong to help Raquel there, Shotzi Blackheart comes back. She attacks her from behind. They brawl up the rampway. Shotzi then tosses Dakota into the plants up on the stage where they have the little home and house and garage set up. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Ember Moon ended up hitting this really cool like tornado DDT on the rampway for a 2 count. She ended up trying to go for the Eclipse again. Raquel countered out of it. Raquel then finished off Ember Moon with a Snake Eyes into the corner and the one-armed powerbomb for the 3. Like I said, a very fun matchup. I did not think that Ember was winning the championship here. I had Raquel penciled in to win this, but I do think this is kind of where we start to see the cracks forming for Raquel and Dakota. I feel like this is kind of where the story will go from here. Ember got pinned here. Raquel beat one half of the women's tag team champions, and so I feel like we're going to have Raquel and Dakota challenging for the tag team titles. They're going to lose because of Dakota Kai. Raquel's going to split from Dakota. They'll probably have a little feud there, and then odds are by then we might get a rematch between Io Shirai and oh wait, no. Actually, I just thought about this. Ember and Shotzi are not the tag team champions. It's Candice and Indy. Okay, well, we'll probably get like a tag team feud between Ember and Shotzi versus Raquel and Dakota. See, this is how pointless those women's tag team titles in NXT are. I can't remember who the champions are. I like that they have the tag team titles in NXT, like, kind of, but I just feel like they were so pointless. Like, why do we need them on the main roster? Like, there are only 2 teams now on the main roster. It's Natalya and Tamina, and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Those are the only 2 tag teams on Raw and SmackDown for their women's tag team titles, whereas in NXT you have so many more, and God, I can't even remember them. I feel so bad for that. I do apologize. I'm recording this review very late at night. Let's move on before I embarrass myself even more as we move on to Todd Pettengill and Dexter Lumis playing karate fighters backstage, and then Dexter Lumis ends up getting mad because Todd tries to make small talk asking him how's it going with the ladies, and then Dexter gets very mad at him. And then we get a promo for the Great American Bash that's going to be coming up here in a couple of weeks for NXT TV. The only thing that I can remember about last year's Great American Bash for NXT was when the entire result of the main event got spoiled online because of that one guy from like the tag team that I believe one half of them is now one of the heavies for Jinder Mahal on Raw. And it's funny, ever since that leak came out, I don't think we've seen that tag team on NXT. So it's been a whole year, and they've still been punished for leaking that very big result. But anyways, we're moving on here to the main event of the show. Karrion Kross defending the NXT title in a 5-way between Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Pete Dunne, and the champion Karrion Kross. And as Johnny Gargano made his way to the ring in his HBK-inspired gear, he walked past Shotzi Blackheart and Dakota Kai brawling backstage, with Regal once again trying to break it up, planting the seeds even more. And much like last year's Takeover in Your House, Gargano came through the front door, didn't lock it, which seemingly definitely came into play later on. Pete Dunne came out wearing some awesome white gear. Karrion Kross came out in his cool gladiator gear, which I do like a lot more than his regular, like, just kind of black trunks. I do like that he's kind of sticking with that. This matchup consisted a lot of, like, especially early on in the matchup, it was Karrion Kross kind of just going against everybody, like, one at a time. Like, they'd kind of face off with him in the ring for a little bit and all that stuff. And there was a moment in this matchup where Kross and Johnny Gargano were fighting in the ring, and the crowd actually came alive. They were chanting for Johnny Gargano, which, I mean, really cool. Gargano was really awesome. I really liked that they got to do it. I loved early on in this matchup the exchanges between Kyle O'Reilly and Karrion Kross. I thought they looked really awesome, and in the end, Kyle actually stood tall over everybody, and then he went after Adam Cole. Now, later on in the matchup, Karrion Kross was chasing after Adam Cole on the stage, but then Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano target Karrion Kross, and they double team, launch him through the stage setup, the door of the stage, which was pretty cool to see. And then back inside the ring, Johnny Gargano hit a cool, like, lawn dart move onto Pete Dunne and tossed them into the corner where Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly were set up. I thought that was some really cool stuff. And then later on, Karrion Kross ended up getting back involved and tossed everybody over the ringside barricade and hit the double-handed choke slam into the apron on Johnny Gargano, kind of like what he did to Tommaso Ciampa at last year's Takeover in Your House, which, once again, crazy to think where Karrion Kross is a year later from one Takeover in Your House to this year's Takeover in Your House. So it's pretty crazy to see how that all went. And finally, like, towards a part of the matchup where Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole were fighting and doing their awesome back and forths, kind of playing off their history from takeovers, finally the crowd was starting to get loud, and Kross got taken out for quite a while again, and I was watching this live, and I was watching the reactions of Steven Larson, and they were pointing out a lot that Karrion Kross was kind of on the outside for long periods of time, and every time he was and the other guys were kind of just fighting in the ring, that's where the matchup was fun. And then when Kross got back in the ring, it kind of slowed down. I understand that point of view. I was still having fun with this. I feel like Kross has been pretty fun, but yeah, I can kind of understand people's opinions on him. I wouldn't compare him. I know some people have compared him being boring like Goldberg. I would not say he is Goldberg levels of boring. I would still say he is more entertaining than Goldberg. But we had a lot more moments of just everybody trying to get their moments in the ring where it feels like they're going to come out ahead in this. There was a point where Kross locked Pete Dunne in the cross jacket, and then Pete Dunne snapped his fingers to get out of it. Gargano then hit Pete Dunne with a DDT, and then Kross locked him in the cross jacket, and then Cole ended up hitting a last shot on him. Kyle O'Reilly then hit some brutal knees on Adam Cole, and then dropped a knee on Karrion Kross. There was a lot of moments in this matchup where Cole looked like he was going to steal the win here and steal the championship. He super kicked everybody, and then he got caught by Kyle in the heel hook, and it was perfect because Kyle has Adam in the heel hook, and then Kross kind of sneaks up behind Kyle and locks him in the cross jacket. Kyle passes out. Karrion Kross retains the championship. I didn't really think Cross was losing the championship here. I had some inklings where Adam Cole, like I said, could have snuck out with the championship here, but I don't know. Cross just kind of won the championship, so I think it would have been weird for him to lose it almost immediately, but I mean, it would kind of make sense with a multi-man matchup like this. There's a lot of moving pieces going on, and the matchup that I'm most excited for coming out of this is going to be Kyle O'Reilly versus Karrion Kross. I think that'll be a really cool, like, David versus Goliath kind of feud whenever they get around to it, but I think we might have one more matchup between Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole later on, and I was expecting Roderick Strong to come out at some point and kind of cost Adam Cole the matchup here, but that didn't happen. But yeah, Karrion Kross ended up retaining the championship, and I thought the show was going to go off air here, but then we cut backstage to this moment with Mackenzie Mitchell interviewing William Regal as he's leaving the show, and I noticed there's a tear running down the face of William Regal, and she's kind of asking, like, what did you think of the show? And he explains that he's been the general manager for NXT for so long, and recently he hasn't been able to control the show, which is true. It was happening throughout the show tonight. It's been happening multiple times these past couple weeks on NXT TV, and then he basically kind of says that he's quitting being the general manager of NXT. He's like, fuck this, I can't control these people anymore. I am leaving, I am quitting, and he just kind of walks off into the night. It's like the ending to the Incredible Hulk show where he's got like his thumb out, like hitchhiking on the side of the road, sad music's playing, and that's how the show goes off air. NXT TakeOver In Your House leaves with William Regal basically leaving his house, leaving his post as the NXT General Manager, which really shocked me. Like, that was kind of one of the bigger shocking moments of the show here. Overall, I thought this was a really fun show. I have had some people on Twitter and in other YouTube reviews and stuff like that say this is kind of one of the weakest takeovers, especially of recent memory. I would agree, honestly. Aside from maybe like the Grimes versus LA Knight matchup, this kind of just felt like a special episode of NXT. Like, there weren't a lot of surprising outcomes, no championships changed hands. We did have LA Knight becoming a champion, but that was for a vacant title. But yeah, I still had fun with it. I wasn't bored like a lot of people are with Raw and SmackDown, which thank goodness I do not watch those shows anymore. I kind of just keep up with the news via YouTube reviews and YouTube clips and stuff like that. So it was a fun show overall. I definitely feel like I just wish the crowd would have been louder. Like, I don't know what it was. It was just the crowd seemed so quiet through the majority of the show, and it just was really annoying, especially for like some very big moments in a lot of matches. But I feel like maybe they just kind of had the same feeling I did, where like there wasn't really going to be any shocking outcomes of this show, and maybe they just weren't expecting a lot of that stuff. But all in all, I still had fun with it. Before we go, though, I did have some smaller bits that I wanted to talk about here regarding NXT, and the biggest thing I wanted to talk about was kind of the aesthetic change of NXT. Like, if you've noticed, like, their graphics and stuff has changed quite a bit. They've got like this weird like metal gothic look to their logo and stuff like that. I don't like it at all. Like, I don't know what was wrong with the last logo they had. I thought it was fine. The new entrance theme that they have for the show, sung by Poppy, I think is fine, but I just don't know why they had to change the whole, like, logo aesthetic. I don't know. It just doesn't really work for me. And then I want to go back to the moment with William Regal basically saying that he doesn't want to be the general manager anymore, which kind of ties into this whole rumor that's been going around that Samoa Joe was released from WWE, like, a little bit after WrestleMania. And recently, people have been talking about Samoa Joe might be rehired to WWE, and he could be the new general manager of NXT, or maybe at least like William Regal's like right-hand man, kind of helping him take control of the show, which I do like that idea. I really do. There was like a segment like a year or two ago with Samoa Joe where he did like a contract signing. Like he was the mediator for the contract signing, and he made sure that like there was no fighting or anything going on. He has the intimidating voice and stuff like that. And if he can't wrestle because of like whatever injuries he's still dealing with, I do think that Samoa Joe as a general manager could be really cool. But I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens on NXT TV. But yeah, all in all, very good show. Match of the night for me is probably going to be Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight. I thought that was an awesome matchup. A little bummed out that was kind of the only matchup I wasn't able to predict correctly, but hey, it was a fun show overall. I'm excited to see where all these storylines go in NXT, and I guess the next TakeOver event that we will be talking about will be SummerSlam weekend in Las Vegas. I don't think the TakeOver show will be in Las Vegas, but we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what happens next on NXT TV, and let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think will happen on NXT TV? And like I said at the beginning, let me know your favorite match or moment from the show. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time for the next episode of NXT Talking Takeover Reviews.